Well, we just wrapped up a series on love, and we thought, what better thing to do? Anybody here ever been in love with somebody? And the next step's anger, right? Isn't that how it works? So, we're going to do a series on anger. That's what we're digging into today. Before we get into that, a couple of things I want to share with you. First of all, my name's Steve Bentley. I'm one of the pastors here at the Bridge. If you notice this big tank we got up here, this is so I can do a cannonball when I'm done, make a big splash. And I'm not going to do that. Many people try to get me to do that. I'm not going to do that. But we are doing a baptism today after the message. We're going to have several people come up. Anybody that you feel led to do that, to be a part of the baptism, you're welcome to join us. If you didn't bring a change of clothes, we can do just pouring over your head instead. But you want to be baptized just as a symbol of what Christ is doing in your heart, what's happening inside of you, those changes that are happening. Baptism is something that's from the very beginning that we would do, and it's a celebration of the life change that happens. So I encourage you, if you want to be a part of that, and definitely to be here and celebrate and encourage the people that are taking that step. We're also going to have a baby dedication, I believe. There were some people that were trying to make it work where they have their family and their baby here. We'll see if that happened or not. So we might have that today as well. So we got a lot of stuff going on, and we're kicking off this new series. Oh, I know one other thing I want to share. It was interesting. I come in today, and I ran into several different people, and a lot of times at church, all you ever get to hear is bad news. People are like, oh, I need prayer, I need prayer, I need prayer. And we have all that stuff going on, there's stuff happening. But I had several people come with all kinds of good news, so it was kind of cool. And I know we have the Conleys that are celebrating 35 years of marriage. Lauren said it was 20 happy years of marriage. But 35 years, so that's awesome. I think Kelly's got a birthday today, and somebody else was talking about some accomplishments they've made in their life. They're moving forward, making some changes, and just different things going on. So it's pretty cool. I love to hear that good news as well. So I'm excited about what God's doing in people's lives, and so we're going to get into this series, looking at this anger, and we're going to start off by kind of looking at what it is. What is this anger, and just kind of dig into it a little bit. I know for myself, anybody here ever had an angry time? What I'd like to see is that pretty much every man raise their hand from when you were a teenager at least. I think it's almost a prerequisite. It's like, all right, 13 to 19, you're just angry. I don't know, just the way it is. And I remember being there and just so much anger and so much stuff going on, and trying to understand that and just struggling with it. I remember I had to learn how to deal with it. I had to learn to recognize that anger takes me places I don't want to go, and that's where you play the Incredible Hulk video there. It's like, don't make me angry. You wouldn't like what happens when I get angry. And I remember and that wasn't the warning for everybody else. It was really the warning for me. I just get stupid. Anybody here get really mad and you just get stupid? I mean, you break. Anybody here break phones? I wish my little sister was here, Mary. We were talking the other day about, for the longest time, we'd be talking to her on the cell phone, and she'd be like, my signal, and it's gone. You talk to her later, I threw it out the window of the car while she was going down the road. I'm like, seriously? But I did all kinds of stuff. I get angry, I break things, I just be stupid, and I learned that's really not where I want to go. And so I learned some things about anger, about it being a secondary emotion, and we're going to kind of dig into some of that today. But what happens is when something goes wrong in our life, anybody here ever has anything go wrong in your life? I mean, never. It's like, no, perfect. What are you talking about? We're at church. Put your mask on. But, bad things happen. Stuff happens, it goes wrong, and it impacts us emotionally, and often from there we go to anger. Our second emotion we go to is that anger. And once we turn ourselves over to anger, it can be difficult to come back. Anybody ever struggle with that? Once you give into that anger, to try and come back from it, it's like, you're in your head, you're going, this is stupid. Why am I doing this? But outside, you're not saying that. You're like, you're a jerk, and I hate you, and I'm breaking this, and you just keep going. You're like, somebody rein me in, somebody stop me, and it just gets out of control, and we turn over that. It's difficult to come back, and a lot of times we get angry, and we lose sight of the original issue, and we just rage on. And again, I go back to the Hulk, and you look at him, he gets angry, he turns big and green, and then after that, he's all over the place, destroying everything. He's like, why'd you take that building down? Because my friend was mean to me. You don't understand. It doesn't line up. I think you lost sight of what was really going on. And we do that. We lose sight, and we look for more things to feed our anger on. You ever catch yourself doing that? You get really mad, and then you start thinking about other things so you can stay madder. First you're mad because you stubbed your toe. And then before you're done, you're mad at the world and your parents and, your school when you were in elementary school and that one teacher said something mean to you. And you're just raging on, just like trying to feed that anger. It's just crazy. It's like a big fire. And we get stuck in that. Well, I want to look at some scriptures talking about anger. I want to look at where it talks about God getting angry. There's someone I look at today who talks about Jesus getting angry, and we can see an example there of proper anger and what it is. I mean, the first thing is if God gets angry, then maybe it's not just an evil thing. I think sometimes we teach that. Sometimes people say that, oh, you should just never get angry. And we're going to look at some different verses talking about it. First one's in Numbers chapter 14, verse 18. It says, the Lord is slow to anger and filled with unfailing love, forgiving every kind of sin and rebellion, but he does not excuse the guilty. And you look at that, it says slow to anger. It doesn't say that God doesn't get angry. It says he's slow to anger. You know, I remember there were many times in my life I was very quick to get angry. And I think I'm not as bad as I used to be. I guess you'd have to poll my family, but I think I'm a lot better than I used to be. I don't think I'm as quick to get angry, as quick to get upset. You know, I can stub my toe and recognize it's a stubbed toe and it's okay. You know, it hurts and move on and not have to go to anger. But God does get angry, but he's slow to get angry. And the anger here is talking about not letting the guilty get away with their evil actions. He makes a choice in there. We're going to look more at that in a minute. And so it's slow to anger and he's forgiving. There's still a place for anger. There's still a place for that. Anger is a response that God can choose. And a response for his sense of justice. And when he feels like justice is violated, God chooses that path and what he does there. So I have another example I'll look at of God's anger in Exodus chapter 4, verses 10 to 14. Now in this one, God has been calling Moses and he wants him to speak for him. And he's done some miracles already. He showed Moses some miracles. He says, look, I've got your back, you know, and he shows him some neat things, and he's like, I want you to go and speak for me. And Moses is not okay with this. It says, Moses pleaded with the Lord, oh Lord, I'm not very good with words. I never have been, and I'm not now, even though you've spoken to me. I get tongue-tied, my words get tangled. Then the Lord asked Moses, who makes a person's mouth? Who decides whether people speak or do not speak, hear or do not hear, see or do not see? Is it not I, the Lord? Now go, I will be with you as you speak, and I will instruct you in what to say. But Moses again pleaded, Lord, please send anyone else. Then the Lord became angry with Moses. And so you see again, God getting angry there and getting, he's like, and what's that come from? What's going on there? And if you read on, you read more of that passage and you'll see that God provided a different way. He got angry, but he didn't smite. He didn't strike Moses down. He didn't break things. But it says he got angry and then he provided Aaron, his brother. He said, Aaron will speak for you. He's kind of a slick talker, and I guess I'll use him since you don't trust me enough for me to use you. And so you see that almost a sense of disappointment God has, and then that turned into an anger. So he's upset. He's angry about what was happening. But he didn't smite him. He didn't destroy him. He didn't use that as something. And so that anger, he provided a solution. He provided a resolution to the problem, and he got it taken care of. And so I'll look at another example of anger when we see in Moses. And I was going through these verses and I'm like, man, we're all dealing with Moses and the early Israelites. It's just the way it worked out when we were looking at scriptures. We've got some other ones that we're going to be looking at throughout this series. But in Exodus chapter 32, now you've got Moses at this point. Now we're going from where we just talked. Moses has finally, he went and Aaron spoke and they did all their stuff and they led the Israelites into freedom, out of slavery. The Red Sea's been parted. Miracles have been worked. They've been rescued. They're out there doing their thing. And Moses goes up on the mountain to talk to God. And so he's up there and he's getting, remember the tablets, the big stone tablets and the 10 Commandments and all that stuff? So he's up there on the mountain. He's getting those things and he's checking things out. And while he's up there, God says to Moses, listen, they're down there sacrificing to an idol. And you have to read the whole story. It's you read this and it's nice to read the Bible because you see people that will fall on God and screwing up and messing up. And sometimes you're like, man, I don't feel so bad about myself anymore. It's like I was feeling really bad about myself, about how bad I was messing things up. And you read through the Bible, you're like, wow, these are real people that screwed up and God loved them, forgave them, and continued to lead them and help them move forward and get to the next thing. And so you have to read the rest of this passage talking about that. But so God sends him back down. And at first God's like, I am not okay with this. You know, I'm just gonna wipe these people out, and I'll start over with you, Moses. Moses is like, no, let's not do that. And he pleads for the people, and they go down there. Moses comes down, and he's not happy either. So in Exodus 32, 19 and 20, it says, when they came near the camp, Moses saw the calf, and it was this golden calf they made, and they were bowing down to it, and they were in the dancing, and he burned with anger. He threw the stone tablets to the ground, They probably shouldn't have done that. Those are the ones God gave him. Smashing them at the foot of the mountain. He took the calf they made. I love this. I'd love to use this. Anybody here looking for ways to discipline your kids? Listen to this. This is really cool. He took the calf they made, he burned it, he ground it in powder, he threw it in the water, and made the people drink it. That'll teach him, I guess. I don't know. That was pretty rough, but he is upset. He's angry. And so even though he went to bat for him, when he was talking to God, he's like, God, no, let's not destroy them. You know, let's not just start over. He said, let's go down and try and make this work. And God's like, okay, you go talk to him. And he goes down there. So he gets down there and he responds to those feelings. Now, what are those first feelings? The first feelings are like betrayal. Can you imagine, everything that had happened? All the things God had done, all the work that happened, all the miracles. If you haven't read it, go read the book of Exodus. It doesn't take that long to read. It's not a real long book. All the things that God was doing to lead these people out into salvation, out to freedom, getting away from being slaves, and all the stuff that happened there, and he's up on the mountain for a few days, and they make a calf and start bowing down to a false god. And they're like, what in the world? And so you get this sense of betrayal and the sense of disappointment. And then the anger response. And he gets angry, he smashes the stone tablets. That probably wasn't the best response to the anger. God had some consequences with him. He had to deal with that later on. Not a big deal, but we can see here though, it's normal and okay for God's people to respond in anger. It's normal to have anger. Have you ever heard that before in a sermon? Anybody? I don't think I've ever heard that before, but you read it, it's normal. Anger is a normal emotional response. It's a normal response that you can choose. Hopefully you choose, you don't just let it overwhelm you and flood through you. But you see, it is normal. And later on in the series, we're going to be looking at healthy ways to deal with our anger. But first, today we're going to look at what it is, and that's what we want to focus on. But we do see it is reasonable at times to be angry. It's reasonable. I mean, a lot of times I've heard and I felt like the message was, you can't get angry anymore. You're supposed to be a Christian. You call yourself a pastor. I've heard that line a lot of times. That's all I love that when a conversation starts that way. And you call yourself a pastor. Oh, this is going to be good. But, you ever hear that? And you call yourself a Christian. You ever got to hear that? I've heard that too. And you call yourself a Christian. I'm like, oh boy, this is going to be nice. But, you get angry and that stuff happens. But it is okay and normal for some anger, for what happens there. So I've got one more example of anger and some of the results of it that are a little bit harsher. In Numbers 11, chapter 11, verse 1, says, soon the people began to complain about their hardship. Again, after God's providing them with food and safety and everything they're doing, they complain about their hardship. And the Lord heard everything they said. You ever overheard somebody talking about you behind your back? Somebody that's supposed to be a good friend, and you felt like they're just sticking, So it says God heard what they were saying, and the Lord's anger blazed against them. He sent a fire to rage among them, and he destroyed some of the people on the outskirts of the camp. Sometimes anger results in serious consequences for the wrongdoers. Sometimes you can choose an anger response, and from that, there are consequences. There are things that happen. We see that God had a controlled response, a determined response, and it wasn't just an uncontrolled thing. He heard what was said, he processed it, he made a choice, and he sent some consequences. So what is anger? And anger is this secondary emotional response to the primary emotions that hit us for whatever reason. Anybody ever been sad? Have you ever gone from sadness to anger? Anybody here ever been depressed? And you've gone from depression to anger? Anybody here ever got physically hurt and then went from that to anger? There's a bunch of angry people. But it's usually pretty much everything I've ever seen, there's something else. You ever been betrayed? Your first sense is betrayal. You're like, you're hurt, right? It's like, oh. Like you just feel like your chest is caving in. You're like, oh. I can't believe that. And you're disappointed. And then very often, now you're angry. And it's a secondary response. Something happens, emotions hit us, and you really can't control some of those emotions when they hit you. You can have quite a level of control over anger before you give into it, because first something else happens. Something happens, something occurs, and then you choose that emotional response. Am I going to be angry about this? At what level of anger am I going to do? Am I going to just give myself over to anger? I mean, it's just, we've talked about it, and probably a lot of you are sitting there thinking of times in your life where you got angry and ignorant. You know, we get angry and we just went overboard. Said thing, you ever said something in anger, like, I wish I'd have never said that? I wish I'd have never put that out. Because, you know, those words come out and you can't ever cram them back, they're gone. You know, they're out there and it's done. That damage is done, you can never undo it. You know, and that anger, you know, and you probably think about it, there's times that anger is just overwhelming. But what we want to talk about in this and what anger is recognizing that anger is a secondary response. You can be disappointed, betrayed, sad, hurt, lonely, whatever it is, whatever those negative emotions are. I've never seen anybody go from happy to anger, but whatever those negative emotions are that you're struggling with, and you can even choose an anger response if it's appropriate. You know, being betrayed and stabbed in the back, it might be appropriate to have some anger. You know what? I'm not okay with this. This is not right. But not just give it into it and turn it into an explosive, incredible Hulk tossing cars and all that stuff. And it's really difficult to rein your anger back once you've just given into it. If you didn't think it through and go, wait a minute, I'm not going to just get angry. I'm going to think this through. Is this the best response? Is this what I should do? Because once you give into it and you just start going, it's kind of hard. Once the Incredible Hulk was green and was pitching cars around, he never really came back until he got worn out. Anybody ever take an anger nap? He just raging and he just wiped out. I'm getting fewer and fewer hands up because like people are going to be using this against me. Like people taking notes. I saw that hand. And so we're looking at this anger stuff, and what do we do with it? It's important that we understand that anger is normal. It's okay. It's not just evil in itself. And one example that we had, we were talking and developing and putting this stuff together was your check engine light. How many people have a check engine light on their car right now? Not like the car's up there running, but like you start your car, the check engine light's on. How many people have not seen a car without a check engine light for like 10 years? Like, I'm pretty sure every one of my cars had a check engine light for that long. But you get this check engine light comes on, and it's a sign something's wrong, right? When you have that sense of disappointment, betrayal, sadness, loneliness, hurt, you know, just when you stub your toe, whatever happens, when you have that sense, it's something's wrong. The check engine light flashes, something's wrong. And then you have to figure out, what do you do? Usually you don't just junk your car. I usually drive mine for another 40,000 miles. You don't just junk your car to check engine light again, but there's something going on. You need to evaluate, you need to decide, you need to check it out and see, is this car something that I can drive like this for a little while, which if you looked around and saw the hands, a lot of us drive with a check engine light on, right? Is this something I can deal with? Is this something I have to do? What's my response? And so we're looking at this, and we're going to talk more about this as we go through this anger series. I hope you guys will plug into this and really look at this. We did the love thing, now we're going to look at the anger. How do we deal with that? One of the key verses we're going to use in the next sections as we go in the next couple of weeks is, it says, in your anger, don't sin. There's a verse that talks about it. We're going to really talk about that a lot. In your anger, don't sin. How do we have anger and yet not let it lead us down places we don't want to go? And we'll get into that more. Often we condemn anger altogether as being bad, but we see in the Bible that it's not just intrinsically bad. It's not just horrible and wrong and evil for you to have anger. You know, it's not something, you call yourself a Christian and you're getting angry. What's wrong with you? You know, it's really not that. You see that anger has a place in your emotional makeup. You're seeing that today. Where you begin to examine what the problem is, that first twinge of anger. When you first start to go, oh, I'm going to get mad, you know, that you wouldn't like me when I get angry, you know, you first get that. When you start to examine, what's the primary emotion? What's really going on? Most of the time we never look at it. A lot of times we're angry and we don't even really know why. We start twisting it to explain it, but we didn't really look at it. When you first feel it, to start looking at, wait a minute, why am I feeling angry? What's going on? Am I lonely? Am I hurt? Did somebody betray me? You know, what's happening? Somebody told a lie to me, about me, whatever. Well, you start examining that and really looking at it so you can understand what's going on with this anger response. I remember, I've told this story here before, but I remember the first time I ran away. I think I was like 5 years old, 4 years old, 4 and a half, something like that. I remember when I ran away, and we lived in Flint over on Forest Hill. And it's a little over neighborhood now. But I remember running away. And I remember coming back because I couldn't find where I was going. Like I couldn't find the place. I was going to a friend's grandma's house, and I couldn't find the place. And I'm like, I guess I'll go home. And so I head back home. And I get home, And my mom's not happy. You can imagine, your little kid just wandered off. You know, when I was that, I was like, no big deal, I'm just running away. You know, and I look back now, I'm like a 4.5-year-old, 5-year-old, run, that was just ignorant. And my mom was not happy when I got back. But I remember that she took me, and I'm pretty sure she took me down to the basement. That was our woodshed. And we were going to get a spanking. And she was calm about it, and I was really freaked out. And she said, you're going to get a spanking. You've got to learn not to do this. And I'm thinking in my head, you know, if you spank me, I might want to run away again. I don't know. But she's like, you've got to learn. And I remember my mom was angry, and reasonably so. And if you have kids, you've been angry. But she chose her response. And I remember looking at that in my past and thinking about that when I had my kids, not to discipline out of anger. You know, you get mad and you just beat your kid and like, You know, it's like, there's a reason. You might still be angry, but that's where you sit down and have that scary talk. You're going to get a spanking. This is coming, you know. And I remember my mom doing that and looking at it as parenting. And so when you listen to that and you think about that, you can see that a real and honest evaluation of what's going on can lead to a rational and effective response, even though there's anger there, right? You can be angry with your child and still take the time to discipline them correctly. Take the time to address the problem. The same thing with all your other relationships. And that's what I want to challenge you as we go through this series, is looking at this anger, looking at it a different way, going, wait a minute. Yeah, I'm angry, but why? What's going on? What really happened there? I'm angry because my kid just risked his life running away, you know? I'm angry because of whatever it is. What's a reasonable response? How do I address this? Sometimes we turn to anger and it's like I'm lonely, like a reasonable response might be I need to go out and try and make more friends, you know, that there's nobody needs to be chastised, nobody needs to be destroyed. You know, God was angry with Moses because he wouldn't speak. He wouldn't trust God to give him the grace he needed to speak when he called him to. And what did he do? In his anger, he provided him with Aaron to speak. He didn't punish him, he didn't beat him. All right, does that make sense? You picking up while I'm laying down? Read my mail? Mowing my lawn? Now you guys are really lost. When we condemn emotions that are part of our makeup in God's image, we're denying who and what we are. And when we become a slave to any particular emotion, especially anger, we get out of control quickly. Emotions are a great gift from God, but they're not meant to be our masters. They're meant to be our servant. They're indicators. They're check engine lights. They're things, you know, something's going on. You need to get into this, you know, and it's a gift from God when we use it appropriately. When we as a people look to our mirrors in order to examine what's going on inside of us, instead of just giving over to our passions, we can become a healthy group of people that lead the way in rational responses to sometimes irrational actions of others. If you guys, anybody here watch the news at all, you see the stuff going on around the world, around America, you know, the shooting happened in California and all the different, there's always negative stuff, and it's, you look at that stuff and it's like, you know, here's what's happened that's bad. Like, let's get this news. It's almost never good stuff. And sometimes you see irrational responses to irrational actions. If we as a people can start to get this right, start to really look at this with our emotions, with anger and what's going on, we can become a people that have healthy responses to unhealthy actions out there. You guys know any unhealthy people in your life? You know, there's some people out there, right? Toxic people. There's people out there that are hurting themselves or hurting other people, and we can learn to not get sucked into them. We go look at the mirror and go, wait a minute, what's going on here? We can have a healthy response, and by doing that, we will change our world around us. What I want you guys to know today is anger is a normal part of our nature that tells us something's wrong. Something's not right. Something's happening. What I want you to do is start to treat anger as a trigger that causes us to find what's wrong and fix it, instead of just giving into it. When you feel those first twinges of anger, use that to start looking. Wait a minute. What's really going on? Why am I really angry? Some of my most angry moments in my life were because of things I screwed up. And I wanted to abuse others. You know, I wanted to get upset and angry and yell at other people. And it was because of my own shortcomings, my own failures. And if I take the time to actually look at that, that's still today, some of the things that I want to get angry about the most are the things that I screwed up. You know, I don't want to pay the price for the things I messed up, and I get angry. And so we'll take the time to look at that. That's what I want you guys to do, is start looking at that and look at addressing it, having a rational response. It doesn't mean you can't get angry. It means use that as a trigger. Look for what's happening. I'm going to pray for us, and then we're going to have the people that are getting baptized are going to come on down. The band will be coming up shortly too. And I think the ushers, are you going to wait?
It's up to you.
It's up to me. I got to give the instructions. I'll have the ushers when we get started on the baptizing. You guys can go ahead and pass the basket, and that's a time of offering. It's time for us to give back to God just a portion of what we've had, and it's really what we as the church do. It's how we support the ministries here. We don't have any independent wealth. We don't have this big grant that we work off of. It's us together throwing those few dollars that we put in and we give back to God that support our ministries and help us to reach out to our community. So the ushers will be passing a basket for that time. If you're new here, you're visiting here, don't feel like you have to put something in there. This is for the people that call the Bridge their home to help support the ministries of the Bridge. So don't ever feel like you have to if you're visiting us. So I'm going to pray real quick, and then I'll have the people that are getting baptized come down. Let's go ahead and pray. And Father, we just thank you so much for your word to us. And Lord, as we dig into this series, I pray, Lord, that you will put this on our heart. Just as we went through the love series, Lord, and you taught us some new things, and you opened our hearts and our minds to understand better about love and how to be a loving people. Lord, I pray as we go through this series on anger, that you will help us to see that anger isn't something we should just put a mask on and pretend it's not there, something that we should put away that's just evil, but it's something that you've given us, built in your image as a response to things that happen in life. Lord, I pray you help each one of us to really start to examine ourselves, to dig deep in that, and to understand why are we angry, what's happening, what is this anger going on, and what should I do to respond to it. Lord, I pray that you will help us to be that kind of people, and through that, Lord, that we will become peacemakers, that we will be a people that unite others, not divide. Lord, that we will be a people that impact our community in a positive way. Lord, I thank you for what you're doing in the lives of people, the good news I kept hearing all morning from people about what you've done and things that are happening, the celebrations that are going on. Lord, I just pray you continue to bless our people and use us to make a difference. Lord, I ask you to be with us now as brave individuals that are coming forward to step out and just say, I claim Christ, that my old person is dying and I'm being born again as a new person. And I pray, Lord, that you will bless them as they come forward for this time of baptism and help us as the church, as the body of Christ, to be celebrating as this member of our family is making this step. Lord, I ask you with each one of us now in Jesus' name. Amen.
Love you, Steve.
Thank you. Love you guys.